uh, high energy doesn't even get to this room. So thank you for having me. I've got some disclaimers and some sort of explanations on the front end. Um, I would encourage you all on the front end to just write your own bio and see if people will read it. They'll read whatever you put on there. But most of that is true, especially the part about my sons and needing your advice on how to get them to listen. The disclaimers for today are there's a lot of really smart people in this room, a lot of good stakeholders in Kansas City that I've known for many years. I will just say on the front end, I do not work for FIFA. I do not work for KC 2026, which is our planning group. I work for the Greater Kansas City Chamber. So when I speak on this topic, you get some unfiltered hard truths sometimes. And I think as a region, we need to be thinking about this in a realistic way. And at this point in the project, I think there are a lot of things we know, a lot of things that we still want to know. So the other disclaimer on the front end is this will probably not answer every question that you have today. So there is more information today than there was 4 years ago when we won the bid. I've got a lot of stories. I've got a lot of firsthand experience. I know many in the room have probably played a role in getting us to this moment, but I hope at the end of today you all feel informed, excited, and ready to go in terms of your communities and your businesses capitalizing on this opportunity that's coming our way in just a few short months and days. So we're going to do a thing here on the front end. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we're going to get excited by listening to a sonic ID. So yeah, that's pretty good. Kansas City. KC, baby! Kansas City. Yeah! Tell the opponent that, yeah! Now, boys and girls, come on, City. We get from the World Cup. KC, baby! Gets me excited. That is, I guess, the World Cup Sonic ID. So I had no idea what a Sonic ID was 6 months ago, but we were able to, as a host community, create our own Sonic ID that's unique for us. And if you want to be proud of us versus the 11 other United States host cities, ours has the most downloads, and it's not even close. So I kind of want to bottle you guys up and take you to the other presentations because they're not all as affirming. But yeah, we're excited. This thing is close, and this is like the shock and awe slide. Like you saw the media blitz in the last couple of weeks about the 1 year out activations. Maybe we'll start with the baseline. Who are my soccer people, football people? Who are the diehards? It's normally less than a third, so there's close to a third. Now raise your hand if you're more traditional American football, basketball, baseball sort of person. Okay, so a lot of sports fans, not all as well-read on the World Cup and football, if you will. So I admittedly am one of those more traditional American sports fans. So I've learned a lot about the World Cup. I love soccer. I was able to go to the World Cup. I've got some fascinating stories and things that us as Kansas Cityans, I think we maybe not understand our brand and how far that's risen on an international stage. So I hope to get to some of that. We do have time at the end for some questions, but I can talk about this topic all day, every day. The World Cup is humongous, and soccer is the world's sport. So I don't mean to talk down to anybody, but my wife didn't really understand it when I got to go over there. So I don't assume everybody understands just how big this sport is. In a previous iteration of this slide deck, we had the viewership depicted by trophies, and we had the Super Bowl trophy, and then we had the World Cup trophy, and it was to sort of depict the viewership of how big this sport is on a global stage. The Super Bowl, which is like our penultimate of what sports are in the United States, pales in comparison to the amount of eyeballs, impressions, and people that are passionate about this sport. So 3.5 billion fans. The joke is, I don't know who they surveyed or if the third of this room was involved in that, but there's a lot of fans. And it is easy to understand the soccer federations that are playing in the World Cup and desire to sort of get qualified to participate. That map is absolutely knowable. And it's way bigger than we realize here in the United States. So we'll get into a little bit of that. We'll get down into some of the history. In 1994, I was 13. This community looked a little bit different. The appetite for soccer was a little bit different. And I'll frame that up for us. In 1994, the last time the United States hosted the World Cup, we did not have Major League Soccer. One of the legacies of the last World Cup that came to the United States was the formation of Major League Soccer. We proved as a nation we had an appetite for soccer. And since then, all of these stadiums, Sporting Kansas City, the Kansas City Current, all those things have happened since the last time the World Cup was here. There's a couple hard truths, and this is where I can speak candidly. FIFA likes hosting in the United States because we have really big stadiums, and they make a lot of money on the tickets they sell in those stadiums. So my disclaimer for people in tickets, because I get that question a lot, is expect they'll be expensive. I would not trust any ticket you've seen to date because they've not released them from FIFA. When we were in Qatar, so anybody you're buying today, that's like a speculative secondary market that assumes they'll get what they're selling you today. So just be dubious of that. When we were in Qatar, we went to maybe 4 matches, and my boss, Joe, who you might know, was on the secondary market. So FIFA not only controls the initial market, but they also control the secondary market. And if you go to the secondary market that's not controlled by FIFA, buy at your own risk. Just imagine language challenges and maybe don't have that full confidence. So I would wait a little bit on the tickets and know that when these international audiences come, they're going to have a really high appetite to pay for that ticket. So if you're that passive fan, you might want to think about getting your World Cup experience in a slightly different way. You might want to hit Fan Fest. You might want to do some local activations because it's going to be an expensive ticket, even though we have 75, 80,000 seats. They do make a lot of money on the tickets, and the stadium that we built, we're not going to talk about stadiums. We're just not going to do it. Can't. But I'll say this about the stadium. We built that stadium 50, nearly 60 years ago. And I mean Arrowhead Stadium. That Arrowhead Stadium will be referred to as Kansas City Stadium. It will not be called Arrowhead Stadium. None of the facilities will have sponsorships connected to them. It's just not what FIFA does. There's been some lawsuits and things with the Mexican host cities. So it will be Kansas City Stadium. It will not be Arrowhead. But we built that thing so well 50, 60 years ago that we're now hosting World Cup matches in it today. Like, we should all be proud that we built something that amazing and sustainable. So good on us. That's as deep as I'll go on stadiums. But we do know today, I forgot to do this disclaimer. Raise your hand if you've seen one of these presentations from myself or Tracy or somebody else. Oh, good. Okay, so some of this is new for a lot of you. We've known these dates since last summer. They were announced, and I got a legal pad out because that's the way my mind works. And I scribbled down the dates, and I went to the calendar in 2026, and I was really happy to see that most of these are weekend dates, right? If you want to round up and say Thursday's the start of the weekend, you can kind of get to that. But I think that's exciting for us because we're going to be able to show off our community. We're going to be able to volunteer and be involved in these games. We're going to be able to take our family to the activations and still be able to sort of function in the work week in a way that'll be really fun and neat. So it is defined which days we play, what stage of match we will host. And the real fantastic thing for us is we've competed really well versus the other host cities. We are hosting 6 matches, and it culminates for us in quarterfinal matches. And the quarterfinal matches really get to soccer federations that, like, everybody's heard. You're talking Brazil, England, Croatia, Canada, like these soccer federations that we're going to be so fortunate to have in our community. The spotlight of the world will be on Kansas City for one of those quarterfinal matches. And it's on a Saturday just over a year from now. So get your personal travel plans in ahead of time. If you're that person that says, you know what, I don't know that I want to be around all those people that are coming to town, you'll never have more direct international flights than you will for this period of time. So what the airlines have told us is they will flex and give us some direct flights that we'll have for a moment in time. Kind of like when the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl and you get a couple extra flights to Tampa. They're going to do that on an international stage, and they've been doing the planning on that for a while. So if you want to jump out of town, you want to Airbnb your house, you can do that. And the rest of us are going to be here showing off Kansas City to this group. So if you haven't seen this, for those that haven't seen the presentation, this is that inflection point, that moment of pride for me. I'm a Kansas City native. Many of you are from Raytown in this area. If you see another Printe, we are related. I've got 10 aunts and uncles that live over here. I do not know all of their kids' names. It's a big family. So if Uncle Buster's here, tell him hi if you know him. But being from Kansas City, there's a lot of pride in the fact that we are the Midwest host for the World Cup. Not Denver, not Nashville, not Chicago, not Minneapolis. If you think about some of the communities that we are able to say do not have games while we do, it's really fantastic. And for me, it breaks down into three kind of core audiences that will be coming to Kansas City. We're going to have the Kansas Cityans, all of us that kind of want to show off and get a piece of the World Cup. We're going to have the international audience, which we know some about, but probably most of the questions are focused on. And then we've got this uber Midwest, sort of like anybody with kids like me in the area, Chicago, Omaha, St. Louis, they're going to come into our community as well. So if you think about it that way, you don't have to go downtown to go get an experience with the World Cup. So we want to sort of say yes to speaking opportunities and educate and inform everybody throughout the region. I have spoke from Leavenworth to Blue Springs to Platte City. I was in Liberty earlier this week, and there's just a large amount of variance in terms of what communities are doing to get ready for the World Cup. You all need to make the right informed decision for your community. I would not encourage every activation you contemplate to need a big jumbo screen and display all the matches, because when we were in Qatar, we were there for about 7 days maybe. And we had a day, Joe and I, where we didn't have any matches. We had done the Fan Fest. We had done some of those things. And we wanted to go get some cultural immersion in the part of the world that we were in. So think about that as you think about your activations. I wanted a break from soccer. I love sports, but I didn't know the nations that were playing that day or have an interest. So it doesn't always have to be a soccer-based watch party as you think about activations for your community in the year ahead. So we should be proud. I think we're going to talk a little bit about base camps. This is my sort of framing that I can say that maybe Tracy or Pam Kramer couldn't. They've got a growing staff, and they're fantastic. When we started this, it was Kathy Nelson, a member of her team, and a small handful of folks that were pursuing this opportunity. It's now blossomed where the KC 2026 staff, led by Pam Kramer, have 17 folks, and they've divided into the main ways. There's a volunteer lead, there's a regional impact director, there's all sorts of good folks sort of tending to this endeavor, but they are beholden to what we told FIFA we would do, right? The rest of us in this room are not. So what we told FIFA we would do is we would have the venue ready to go. So that stadium that we're not going to talk about the other things is under construction right now to modify it for the World Cup for next summer. So to get a FIFA certified pitch onto Arrowhead Stadium footprint, they've got to take out the corners of each section. They're doing that right now. It'll be ready for the season. Many of us will not notice at all. And then when the games conclude, they'll put it back together the way that it is now. So that's happening real time. So we told them we'd have an amazing competition venue. My other disclaimer on the venue is, who's been to like Super Bowls? A select few. Good. Anybody else been to the World Cup? Okay, so to those folks, when you go to these large global sports activations, the footprint's going to look way different than us that go out there on Sundays for the Chiefs. Like, you can't take Manchester and turn this way and get to your little corner spot. Imagine this foot. We got a lot of Manchester people here. Imagine the footprint around the venue is going to look completely different, and the usable parking spaces might be half of what we're used to out there right now. There's going to be a secure perimeter that might be, way past the concourse today, that you'll have to go past security to get access to. There are stages and music and activations and souvenirs and vendors all within the secure perimeter before you access the stadium. So again, FIFA makes a lot of money on this, but the surface level parking lots, think about Uber and Lyft and the rideshare drop-offs, the ingress and egress. Here's a horror story I'll tell. When we were it's not a horror story, it's an experience that was less than favorable. When we were in Qatar, we took an Uber before Joe got there. So if you know Joe, he loves public transportation. So when Joe got there, we started taking public transit. Before Joe got there, I tested the Uber. So before Joe got there, we went all the way north of Qatar, about an hour in an Uber. And it was a fine experience. And we got dropped off about a half a mile or a mile away, and we had to walk that last part by foot, get to that secure perimeter. And then after the game, the stadium held about 50,000 people. They let it out. We were not eager to leave. So the first 25,000 people left. And then I found myself staring at my phone, trying to get an Uber driver to get back into. So he took the first round of people out. They had not accounted for how to get the Uber drivers back in. So imagine a really, really robust ingress and egress for these rideshare companies to try to navigate what we know as the access points to those stadiums. So it is a large undertaking. The staff is working on it, but the footprint's going to look different. So the disclaimer is don't plan a tailgate. You want to get out there early if you want to go be a part of it, but the footprint's going to look a lot different. So there's three main areas FIFA's focused on: the competition venue, the training camps, and the Fan Fest. And the staff of KC 2026 is really focused on those things too. So they're doing a lot of planning and regional conversations. There's a hope that some of this planning we're doing around transportation can leave a blueprint that we all could sort of benefit from and a legacy of this. But they're really beholden to these three things. The next one is about the base camp. So we talked about the footprint, so that'll be a FIFA activation. We've got this ability to get some base camps, some soccer federations to train here for the duration of the tournament. And we've got amazing built infrastructure in Kansas City. So one, we've got this global design and these sort of, you've seen some media lately about sort of taking some pride in that. But we've got some of the world's best training facilities. If you're not familiar with this, the Compass Minerals Men's National Training Facility out in Wyandotte County is fantastic. These are put in a brochure for the soccer federations to consider where they'd like to train while they're in the tournament. So one, we've got an amazing built environment. Two, we've got centrality. So we saw that yellow graph, and you can fly from Kansas City within 3 or 4 hours to every other host venue. So if you train in Kansas City, you can get to Seattle for your game. You can get to Miami for your game. And if you make it to the finals, you can get to New York for your game. And the third thing we have that we're experiencing now is we've got a humidity that might be attractive to these folks. So isn't that funny that they are attracted to the humidity? Because imagine if you're playing in Miami and you're training in Denver. Denver's got an interest in base camps. You're not going to train in that element and then go play in that humidity. So humidity's working for us in Kansas City. So I'm not personally that excited about it, but they are. The other facilities are amazing. The last piece of this is these are put into a brochure for these soccer federations to consider, and they're all in conjunction with the host hotel. So the Compass Minerals facility just had a Margaritaville hotel open. That will be the hotel that the team that base camps there will stay in. Rock Chalk Park is in conjunction with their dormitories because a lot of these soccer federations would favor a simpler style of dormitory for their lodging. So the current facility in Riverside is amazing, and they're building a property right now, a hotel property that'll be online for the games. So I will pick up my pace ever so much because I want to get to some of the new stuff. If you're one that has heard this conversation, there's been some new slides added to this as of this morning, and I put it together. I'm not absolutely certain when they'll come up. But the Fan Fest is the third rung that FIFA will be interested in. If you're like me, you take a lot of pride in Liberty Memorial and the World War I Museum, and you remember the draft was on the north lawn, right? And they closed Pershing and they used Union Station. We office at Union Station at the Chamber, and we basically had to take that asset offline for the NFL draft. So what we've done for the World Cup is they're going to have Fan Fest on the south lawn, leaving Pershing Road and the north lawn open for activations, and also leaving Union Station open for the visitors to see. So it's going to look great, and some of these new slides would get you pretty excited. So first, there is an expectation that they could have 20 to 100,000 people go through Fan Fest, right? If you want to think about the draft, over the course of those 3 days, they had like 18,000 people, something like that, right? So they're expecting a lot of people to touch Fan Fest. We've got a director of the Fan Fest, and she's trying to make sure that it's local, it's authentic, and it's uniquely us. I would encourage all of you, this will be a free event. There'll be a security element that you have to sort of participate in. But this other piece of information here, the 24 days is the maximum number of days. we've got 28 days between our first match and that quarterfinal match. This sort of implies to me that it might not be open every day. And when it's not open, there's the ability to sort of think through where other activations could happen, right? So the mayor of Riverside is building an amphitheater, and she really wants to do something on a large scale when that audience is in town. There's a contemplation that we could move some events with some specificity around and cadence it in conjunction with FanFest. Really sort of share the economics of this audience. So that's exciting. And then there's some just conceptual renderings of what the South Lawn could look like. I don't think it'll look exactly like this or this, but it sort of lets your mind wander a little bit in terms of what they can do with that iconic backdrop and some staging and things. So FanFest is fantastic. I would absolutely recommend that everybody in town, bring your family, come to FanFest. You'll get to interact with an international audience, see the World Game, support some small businesses, and to just sort of remind everybody that we won this bid on uniting a region. We had sort of a mega region that was able to sort of stand behind us. We've got bi-state support. The support from the state of Missouri came in early and heavy. State of Kansas has been significant. And because of that, we were able to sort of get out ahead of procuring things like buses and things like that. So we want to leave a lasting legacy. That's kind of been the thought for the last couple of years, is we've got this opportunity for 28 days next summer. How do we sort of use this to leave a legacy, to leave with more than we started with and something greater than just this opportunity of entertaining these visitors? So that's still the goal. It might be that we collaborated really well. There's some small business initiatives here that we can stand up for the World Cup and then maybe duplicate for the next mega event that comes our way. I know myself, having worked for 4 chambers, we complement each other a lot. You guys are collaborating on a regular basis. Each June, you guys are getting together and working across organization. If that can be a legacy of sort of collaborative, sort of working in a business sense, I'm really excited about things like that. So one reason our group and your chambers are involved is because there's a lot of impact, right? These are, I think, conservative numbers. 650,000 visitors expected. 653 million in indirect impact, a lot of people employed. We're going to get into volunteering a little bit because that's kind of an exciting element that they've made some headway in. But these are the reasons why we should all sort of be attentive to this. This is fun, so we'll spend a little bit of time on this. They've released some data, FIFA has, around sort of the demographics of who travels to this. Curious for me, 9.7 days. So the international audience, which I think there's 3 audiences, right? There's Kansas Cityans, there's the Midwestern United States audience, and then the international audience. They're going to stay 9.7 days. So imagine Taylor Swift concerts every 6 days, and then they've got 9 days to fill in between. That's the closest sort of economic, recent success story that sort of resonates with folks. I had a hotelier in Liberty, and he was like, Taylor Swift was amazing. Our property has never been so full. So you don't reference to the draft, you reference to Taylor Swift. But if you look a little closer, you can sort of see some things like 41% of these international visitors will speak English. And that poses the question, well, what languages should we prepare for? FIFA tells us there's 3 main languages. It's English, Spanish, and Portuguese that you can prepare for confidently. In addition to that, we will not know the teams that will be playing here until the final draw is announced in December. We will not know the teams that are base camping here, likely until January. At that point, you can get more sophisticated, more specific. If we were to get a soccer federation like Germany or England or Brazil, we've really done a lot of legwork to get a really established soccer federation. Then you could sort of layer over additional language considerations. The demographic skews a little bit more male, and the credit card, if you're able to see the bottom here, only 68% of these international travelers have a credit card. So for the credit union that did the great trivia in the beginning, we're working with the Federal Reserve to make sure that we're out ahead of this. A lot of these groups have sort of subcommittees below. So a lot of questions here on small businesses and how they get prepared for some of the cultural differences on the international folks that are coming our way. We are ahead. So when you think about those 16 host cities, they're all mega cities that host really large events. So LA has the World Cup. Well, 2 years later, they also have the Olympics, right? So many of them are way larger than we are, and they are not as attentive to some of these things as we have been. So because we're not used to having things at this size and scale, we've had to be a little bit more organized on the front end. So I just want everybody to leave with an understanding. There was this narrative early on that like maybe we feel like we're behind. I do not feel like we're behind as a community. I feel like we've been very intentional on engaging small businesses and spreading details throughout the region. So these are the areas where I think we feel the strongest about. We do have this sort of interstate highway system, and we sit in the middle, and health and human services and sustainability. There's all sorts of concerns that they're attending to. So in an upcoming slide, we'll show you how FIFA sort of breaks it all down. This is a conceptual rendering of some transportation thinking. So again, we told FIFA we'd do certain things. We told FIFA we would get folks from the airport to the city center. We told them we would get them from the city center to the match site. Everything else is up for us as locals to sort of figure out what we want to do. These are conceptual concepts about park and ride locations. When I was in Liberty, I said, that might be Liberty. I'm at Faulkner's Ranch, that might be Faulkner's Ranch. I don't know where the park and rides will go. I know many of you might be connected to your municipality. I know there's a lot of discussions about how to sort of get folks to work together and where to cluster folks. But again, think about the footprint being different, and we're not going to be able to drive to Arrowhead Stadium like we normally do. We may not want to be driving down to Liberty Memorial as well. So they're working on this. They've got a collaborative approach, and all the transportation leaders. The question I've been getting, and this isn't relative to stadiums, but it's relative to road construction. There's a lot of road construction on our highways. Are they going to all be open for the World Cup for those 6 weeks while folks are in town? There's a lot of coordination. There's a hope and a desire, and we're doing all we can to kind of coordinate with MoDOT and KDOT to make sure that happens. There are communities, and I'm not really certain about Grandview, South Kansas City, and Raytown in terms of what your municipalities are planning specifically, but it varies through community throughout the region. Johnson County has a campaign that's just come out called Johnson County United. They've got buses that are going to be wrapped, and they're working together. Those municipalities that make up Johnson County. Lee's Summit's been very organized. They've got a community committee, and they've got some plans and aspirations. And then there's other communities. I was born and raised in Shawnee. Doug Wesselschmidt and I used to hang out at the Old Town in Shawnee and do membership luncheons there. They're taking a little bit different approach. They're going to have one activation in the World Cup that's additional, and it's going to be a beer garden or a beer-centric sort of thing, and it's not going to be specific for soccer. So each community is able to make their own decision on what makes sense and what they want to prioritize. I do hope that the normal activations and the normal celebrations that happen in the summer continue to happen, because think about those tourism dropping into things like Boulevardia and those sort of activations that we all take so much pride in. So the goal here is to be active throughout the region and not just at the core, right? So these are those areas that FIFA sort of breaks down the work into, and they all take a ton of coordinating, right? Crisis management, security, private security. We're going to have a lot of shared services, because if we hit the mark and there's activations in Lee's Summit and Johnson County and Riverside, North Kansas City, we're going to have a lot of shared services to keep these things going, to make sure they're all safe and secure, and make sure that the folks that are coming have an environment that we are all proud of. So this is a FIFA graph based on all the things they're thinking through and how it sort of subdivides. I need to check my time, but I'm going to tell a story even if I don't have the time. I'm okay on time. I want to leave time for questions. But Visit KC is a great group working for the region to sort of promote us to this international audience. They are working on campaigns right now. And doesn't this sort of resonate with us, right? Like, to an international audience, they may or may not know Kansas City, but this is how they're sort of carrying us out. They're leaning into our unique traits in the heartland and where we're at. And we have been very well received in markets like Brazil and Germany and the United Kingdom. So think of those as some markets that we expect a lot of visitors coming from. And then these other secondary markets, they're actively running campaigns. They've wrapped buses in the United Kingdom with this sort of marketing and things. So I'll tell you one story, and my boss told the story, and then it gained its old second life. So it's a little bit like a wives' tale. But we're in Qatar, and my boss is in town, so we're taking public transit. So we go down to the Fan Fest, and then we go to like the media area. There was one Fan Fest for the entire country, and there was a media area where you could kind of see the broadcast going on throughout the world. And afterwards, it was in the Middle East. It was the desert, and it was very hot. So the city really came to life in the evening. So it was relatively late. It was probably 11 o'clock at night, and we cram onto a very, very crowded public bus. And you know those seats on a bus that can kind of go up or down, kind of reserved for handicap or elderly and things like that? There are some what I'd call European soccer hooligans sitting in those seats. And they're very lively. They're respectful, but they're energetic. So we cram on and we push onto the bus, and we get kind of separated. So my boss Joe's over on the front of the bus, and I'm kind of near that place where you get on and you can be by those seats. And after me, there's a multi-generational family. There's a mother, a grandmother, a very young daughter, and then this young boy. And they end up being from Iran. And I'm just witnessing this interaction. It's just the most human interaction and just gives me hope for humanity. This young boy steps onto this crowded bus, speaks to these soccer hooligans in perfect English. And he says, "Excuse me, could you please get up so that my mother and my grandmother could sit in those seats?" And they obliged. And it was just the most civil interaction that you've ever seen. And I'm the type of guy, if you know me, that's like, that's amazing. I got 3 boys, and if my son were to speak like that on behalf of my wife, I'd be so pleased. He might, I don't know. But I saw this, and it struck me. So I'm the guy that's going to talk to that young boy. So I strike up a conversation with this young boy. He's 10 or 12. And I said, "That was really nice what you did." And he goes, "Oh, thank you." He goes, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from the United States." And I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Iran." I was like, "Oh, that's neat." He goes, "Where in the United States are you from?" And I was like, "You probably haven't heard of it. Kansas City." Boy looks at me. Patrick Mahomes. Swear to God. Swear to God. So I say that in this context because I don't think we realize, being from here, just how known our community is at this moment in time. So that was before Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. The geopolitical tension with our nations, and we were able to sort of have this civil conversation in this platform. So I am very eager and excited for my family to sort of engage with international folks in the way that I saw over there. So that story resonates to me, but my boss told it in the media, and then it gained this whole second life. So he was looking from the bus and heard about it all later. And anyway, there is this opportunity, with economic development and economic impact in mind, to make sure when we have this international audience in town that we show them what's uniquely us, and that we have this opportunity to bring them back and have their organizations consider relocating or opening facilities in Kansas City. So under KCADC and some of the economic development leaders in the community, they're going to create a Kansas City house. This is a thing, the Olympics and these mega sports things, where you sort of create and cultivate an experience that helps people understand your community. So they're giving a lot of thought to that, but it's with a unique lens of like, what's uniquely Kansas City, right? Animal health, manufacturing, tech, workforce, this quality of life that we all appreciate. So this is really neat. They're working on the venue and the location of this, but this will be a secondary thing that we hopefully can get some traction on. So I got to pick it up a little bit, but I just want to leave everybody with, there's been an intentionality around small business. If you read some of the things I read after the NFL draft left town, it was, we did not set appropriate expectations of what that was going to be and what that wasn't going to be. So we are not going to do that for this endeavor. We do believe it has the ability to positively impact many small businesses. It will not impact every small business, right? We just need to be candid about that on the front end. So we've got a lot of smart people and regional stakeholders relative to small business, and we got them in a room. We got them in a room at the Kauffman Foundation. They got to hold soccer balls, and they sort of helped us frame up what are the things we need to be informing small business. So these next few slides are about really smart people. Think other chambers, think ESOs, think folks that small businesses go to for resources. These are some of the things that came out of a workshop that will now become deliverables that they're working on. The framing will be called the KC Game Plan. So this is the slide before, and it'll be toolkit and workshop stuff that you can share with small businesses, or if you are a small business, that we'll have ready for you. So cultural insights, financial information, metrics to track small business readiness efforts and impact. They are going to have a heat map and some analytics around where these folks are going to stay. With that comes some good and some bad, right? So if we get a heat map and some analytics that say when Taylor Swift was in town, here's where the nodes of people stayed. And we layered over some assumptions about where they'll stay for this time. And you're in one of those nodes, you should know and prepare. And if you're not in one of those nodes, you might be disappointed. We shouldn't shy away from sharing that information so that we can set expectations that let small businesses make good, informed decisions. So I'm excited for what that'll be. These are some subcommittee work that'll be done so we can arm small business under these areas. We had a 3-hour workshop yesterday, and so we're trying to collaborate as much as we can. We're going to deliver that through the existing systems, and think KC SourceLink, think calendars that exist, think about where small businesses go today to get this information, and expect more and more to be pushed out specific for small businesses and expectations. And these are the areas that we think we need to focus on in terms of readiness, right? So there's a couple things to differentiate. There's RFPs and RFIs that come straight from KC 2026 and FIFA. If you get on the KC 2026 website, there are 3 active RFPs right now. If you've got golf carts, they need them. And they want to go local when they can. So we need to differentiate between the RFPs and RFIs that will work directly for those groups, and then others that need to be ready for the tourists and the folks that are coming to town. So these are the verticals that make obvious sense, but we want to make sure that these folks are educated and informed. So corporate engagement, they're obviously beholden to the big sponsors of FIFA. These are their commercial partners. And if you think about it in the way that I do, if FIFA's got a commercial partner, that essentially boxes out anybody locally in that category, right? So they've got Anheuser-Busch InBev, therefore like Boulevard, it's going to be hard for them to work directly because of that relationship. So they're able to sort of announce a week or so ago 2 host city supporters, Populous and Purina. They want to get to 10 of those, and I expect those will be coming in the next little while. But those are sort of the big things relative to the sponsorships. They are very intentional around keeping the money local when they can. Any RFP over $15,000 is rolled out on Wednesday mornings on that website, and it's sent out to anybody that's filled out the business interest form. So if you've gotten that from your chamber, thank them for doing that, and make sure that you're responding if there's any that are appropriate for you. This is a link to that form. If you haven't done it, this is used. I promise you it's being used. I don't promise that everybody that filled out the form is in a vertical that will get direct business. I was doing one of these in Blue Springs, and I love the store, but I really didn't have a good answer. She was like the store manager for the Hy-Vee Blue Springs. And she comes up to me and she says, I filled out the form. When am I going to get my opportunities? I don't know, but I know that you're on the list, and I know that they're going to sort of send out information when it's applicable. So just know that this is the first step to make sure that you're getting these opportunities when they come your way. And if you don't have it or don't take a picture, your chamber has the link. It's available on their website too. So this is for the jurisdictions that are here. We've got Grandview, South Kansas City, and Raytown. Take back to your local leaders this need and desire. We're at a great venue today. If there's going to be an activation planned here that you want the public to know about or the tourists to know about through the app that FIFA will give us, we want to make sure that we're tracking that and that we know when it's going to happen. This is a password secure tool or portal, if you will, that Mid-America Regional Council has stood up for the World Cup. So that if Shawnee is doing an activation on June 17th, Lenexa might not want to do one on the 17th. They might want to wait till the next day. It'll also help us with transportation. It'll also help us with security and those sort of things, because we know we're going to have a lot of shared services to pull this stuff off. So make sure that your folks are uploading your information. This isn't sort of a scarcity model sort of thing. You don't need to be concerned. This is information that I think is relatively new. So if you've heard this, you are in the loop. The biggest question we get is around watch parties, right? So there was some information out there last year about if FIFA's going to want to sort of control it. If you've got a non-commercial event, you want to host something here, a viewing party for less than 1,000 people, and you're not charging for attendance, you're good to show the game. If you are a non-commercial community event with more than 1,000, you're going to charge an entry fee and those sort of things. They do want you and require you to get that license, right? So that makes sense if you think about it. They want to make sure that if it's of scale, that they can make sure that it's safe and secure and be promoted through the FIFA channels. And if you're a non-commercial course of business like a bar and grill, you're good, right? Based on the licenses that you have to continue to play these sort of things. So there's been a lot of questions about like, where's the break? How big does my party have to be to go necessitate getting a viewing license? These are some more information that I think will be included for small business that are on their way out. The only licenses that you need for the watching are through Fox and Telemundo's. What is the fee? That's a big question. The fee is not near as high as you'd think, but it is one that they haven't told us the specifics on. This knowledge down here at the bottom might be common sense to some. I looked at the chambers promoting this, and some were very, very smart about not using FIFA or World Cup language. They're very busy with the Club World Cup right now, so they're not sort of legally shutting things down, but expect that they will shut some things down if you're using vernacular that you shouldn't. So if you're a community or a local group sort of planning, make sure you're really mindful about alluding to the soccer and not necessarily using the FIFA IP. Okay, last really core section here is volunteering. If you're like me, you might get to a game when they're here, but you definitely want to get a flavor of the international audience. This is not your Saturday morning volunteering for your church group. It just isn't. This volunteering is you have to go through an interview process. So here's how it lays out for me. They require you. We're in this sort of pinkish red box on the side. They're just going to start pushing this out. They've got 5,000 volunteers already. They need to get to 12,000 volunteers, they think, to get to the available that they need. And this not your Saturday morning volunteer thing, they require all volunteers to work 9 days. Let that hit on you a little bit, right? Not 9 hours, 9 days. So you go through a formal interview process. You look at your skills versus their needs. You are sort of in January when you get your assignment and you know what you're going to do. So all of this leads me, the chamber guy, to say we need to work on educating and informing businesses. If you need 9 days from somebody, they're probably going to have to get some of that from their employer to understand that. So expect a lot more on the volunteering coming out, and it's going to be a really neat thing. I'd encourage you to fill out the form. You can get on their website now. There's a very robust volunteer tab on the KC 2026 site. There's a form you fill out now. There'll be an application, and then there's going to be interviews that are coming up. So I'm excited about volunteering. This is the last section that we have. If you can read this, good on you. I bought my first pair of readers this year, so I got to get really close. What this shows you is that's 2024 up there, and that's the games down here in 2026. They are rolling out different publicity and different things. I see this amazing poster, the Host City supporter poster. That was introduced a little while ago. The Sonic ID with Tech9 was launched. There's a mascot launch. There's a one-year activations. The tickets, become available. That's the sort of date that I think you need to be mindful of. So there are going to be a lot of things to keep us excited in this region as we build up, and then all sorts of local opportunities to sort of lean into that too. So I know we're near the hour. I encourage you to check out their website, connect with their staff, let your chamber folks know what you want to do in your community, and stay engaged. So that is what I've got for you today. I will have a few minutes for questions if there is an appetite for that. But thank you guys for doing this. It's close. All right. Got it. He's eager in the back. I'll come back to you.
Is it possible to get if we share your PowerPoint?
Sadly, no. If there are certain elements in here that you would like to be sent to you, let me know. They're very sensitive to the logos and the marks, so they ask that we don't share this in advance. But if there's specific data that you'd like from this, you didn't capture it on your phone, talk to the chambers that are organizing, and we'll work with them as best we can. Yeah.
So I do a networking newsletter every week. It goes out to not a huge audience, but I get good open rates.
Yeah.
And it's talking about using FIFA or World Cup. Same situation for those kinds of things. Still need to be mindful of.
Yeah, like please don't.
Right?
Yeah, those are like the two biggest flags.
Somebody could argue to that, and I was like.
You remember when we hosted the All-Star game, the Royals in Kauffman Stadium? There were some groups in eastern Jackson County that sort of organized, and they were able to sort of understand what phrases they could use and couldn't use to sort of lean into the All-Star game but not infringe on the IP. We need to think about it in that sort of way. So we need to sort of allude to, it's like the Super Bowl. You can't use the Super Bowl, but you can say the big game. Like that's the way we need to start informing everybody.
The regular resident, how do we sell this to them that this isn't their benefits? Especially that, this is going to be a month-long thing, and they need to get their kids to school or go to work. Like, how do we ensure this isn't negatively impacting people who want nothing to do with this? And how do we sell this to them? That this is also good.
I personally don't know that it needs any selling as much as just sharing information and letting them make the decisions they need to make. From a planning perspective, we need to make sure that the basic services that we expect as residents are available. And I think the biggest thing that needs to be contemplated there is things like healthcare, right? Like you want to be able to have elective surgeries next summer because you need to, or whatever that is. I would just sort of impose upon all of us that sharing this information about what's coming, letting people make the appropriate decisions for them. But it's an opportunity that is one we should be proud that we have, and one that if we just keep sharing the facts, I think some of those things, they'll make decisions that are right for them. There was one more over here, and I know we're at the hour.
Is there going to be an effort to kind of clean up the city? Like when you drive on the highways, there's a ton of trash and everything. And I know listening to radio, on car radio, they talk about that a lot. And just making sure that our image is portrayed even in that area. I didn't see that.
There's been a lot of discussions about it. I think there are a lot of smart folks with the city leaders that are sort of attentive to that. I don't know of the active plans for that though. So again, I don't work for the group. I know that they are attentive to it. I don't know of the specific plans though. But yeah, think about it. When you step off the plane, when I was in Qatar, clean city, immediately felt that. I felt the World Cup was there. I felt this pride of who they were. We need to be thinking about readying our community the same way. Jeff, I know we're at the hour. So thank you guys for having me. I hope you're excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. David, we, at least the Raytown Chamber has our Raytown Chamber non-copywritten soccer scarf, which now is available on our website as well. We'd like to give that to you as well. Thank you so much.